Hi, welcome to Cherie's weight loss journey and some of the emotional reconciliations that she has to go through. One of the emotional reconciliations that she has to go through, right during, right before Scorpio season. Again, I'm telling you, Scorpio season truly revolves around deep, dark feelings, sex, and other people's money. Okay. One of the things that had came to my mind was the differences between men and women, right? Men, they try to learn every technique in every book, on how to, they will say to be a better lover, but a lot of times is to try to control people. Right? I mean, in a way, I kind of understand. It's like, dang, well, it's just right there. It's just right there, being a nuisance. Okay? So, yeah. Maybe it is something that they're conscientious about, all the time. Right? But anyway, here's what I wanted to talk about. So these guys, they want to learn these techniques, right? Whereas when it comes to women, like I said, they don't even want you utilizing, a tampon, before they had a chance to, bust it wide. That's if they can bust it wide, but they just want to be first. Okay? So, yeah. So there's a complete difference there, right? For women, don't touch it. It's not really yours, it belongs to them. That's the first lie. Okay? Then the second lie is that they think, if they do porn, and a lot of men will get into porn, and porn will also incorporate, things like tantric sex, which involves hypnosis. The first encounter we had as young children in regards to tantric sex was Marlon Brando, and he was in France, and he had blindfolded his sexual partner at the time, and was feeding her strawberries and really very sensual things. Slow, methodical, and if you look it up, if you look up tantric sex, you'll see that utilized properly, that's the way that it should be. Utilized improperly will involve multiple people, sexing each other, drugs, alcohol. I believe they called it the 5 M's, right? And I know your people were like, well, why did they do this? Well, the main reason why they did this is they were looking for techniques in which to have sexual gratification with their partner, because a lot of them were in arranged marriages, right? When I was in Algeria, they still had arranged marriages. When I was talking with an East Indian man, and he had told me that, his marriage has already been arranged, and that this was going to be the mother of his children. And I was like, they still do that? And he was like, yes, we still do this over here in India. So, he let me know that he had posted pictures about his wedding, and they go through a whole ritual. They spend an entire, I think it's like a month together bonding. And this is how they go about, their bonding, in a traditional arranged marriage. When I was in Algeria, there was rituals that were done amongst mainly the females. And it was about a month of rituals and cleansing and diet and the only reason why I'll say what I seen was mainly what happens on the female side, because back then, they definitely separated, men from the women. If the man had any kind of ritual, this was among, this occurred amongst other men. They did not bond together. That's weird, huh? You're doing like a month-long ritual to bind yourself to somebody, and you're not doing it together. Very interesting. So, getting back to what I was talking about. Now, here in America, we used to do what we would call a courtship, get married, and then, like a 2-week, honeymoon, right? Then it went to 1 week. Then they eliminated the honeymoon altogether. So these people, they're not bonding. They're not. So as a result, they want to use techniques that are typically used in these bonding rituals, in their effort, to conquest women. They say they're not doing that. They say that this is what they're not doing. And you can say whatever you want to say, but your actions is the proof that's in the pudding, right? You put in that effort. This is your action, and it wasn't for the intention of binding someone to you, but you're using that technique. Then you're upset because you've used a binding technique because let's be honest, some of the tantric sex techniques, involve a certain amount of hypnosis. Hypnosis and stimulation. Kind of like training, right? You can train a dog to salivate, every time that he hears the bell, when you associate the bell with food or, the opportunity, to be with other dogs. They'll salivate. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. I know a lot of people, used to think back in my day that, they couldn't be hypnotized. And they used to put on shows where hypnosis, that people were not only able to hypnotize individuals, but they could also hypnotize masses of people. They can be that skilled to hypnotize the masses. And some, wasn't just putting on a show, but they actually believed that they were powerful, a spiritual, powerful person. And that's where, they came up with the ideas of having these cult compounds and, and getting people to do what they want them to do, and, had them drink the Kool-Aid, to try to, get rid of, the evidence of the things that they were doing to these people on these compounds. Okay? Made it seem like it was just a spiritual thing, but it was definitely, it definitely proved that absolute power is corrupt. So, to say that women, are by nature submissive, not really. If you take under consideration that, first of all, they're not conditioned. They're not conditioned, for autonomy. Second of all, they're not conditioned to self-pleasurize, right? And then, third, they implemented, all of these laws, to debilitate women and create them into a role of forced dependency. Okay? So, here in America, because the women here, are utilized by men, multiple men, they're not, caught in the hypnosis, of an imposed purity, right? Whereas in developing countries, you know, the men are like, well, no, she has to be a pure virgin, you know, stuff like that. Because, you know, in their minds, you know, they still want, you know, ultimate control over another person. And I don't use the word person in error, because they can also use these techniques with a willing male that would subject himself to being submissive. Okay? And if this sounds, you know, off the chain, you know, you have to realize, yeah, the world is off the chain, right? And I'm really putting that very lightly, because it's really only half of the world, because only half of the world is consists of men, right? But here's the thing, right? Arranged marriages mainly was, you know, to propagate a certain species, to populate the earth. Well, we got 8 billion people on this planet, okay? This idealism is very outdated. Very outdated. And just to have a variety, just to maintain a variety, you know, I was watching this video about this guy who got involved with a Nazi group, and he was saying, oh, they believe in family, and, you know, they just prefer, you know, their culture, they enjoy, you know, their hair, their eyes, the color of their skin, you know, I don't know, maybe the same diet, you know, stuff like that, you know. And I was like, you know, that's interesting, you know, because you'll see that almost every culture will say the same thing. Yeah, they'll say the same thing. But then, you know, me being interracial, you know, I'm like, why is it that you're holding on to these aesthetics so strongly, even to the point where, you know, you think it's not a crime to hate other aesthetics? You know, and of course there's no decent answer for that question. Now, because of the media, the internet, knowledge, you know, spreads a lot faster and a lot more accurately. You know, people are becoming enlightened, and enlightened is just, you know, a better word to say educated, familiar with different subjects, and because if we use the word educated, you know, it comes with the connotation that, you know, they went through either a training or a program or an institution. Okay? Yeah. So, various countries will do various things, you know, in order to control women, you know, just like in Africa, South Africa, right? You know, they would circumcise the women so that they, you know, couldn't have pleasurable sex once they were done with them. Some regions, you know, they thought it was no crime to actually, you know, unalive women once they were done with them. And like I said, all of this is outdated and barbaric and cruel. And there's nothing that they could possibly say that would justify that, you know, this type of behavior continues, right? Such as, you know, well, I couldn't please my wife, therefore, you know, I tied her up and tortured her, you know, and, you know, he wants to, you know, call it a consensual domineering and bondage situation. You know, they call it DB, right? Or if the pain is, you know, I guess to a certain intensity, then they'll call it S&M, you know, sadistic and, you know, masochism, right? None of this stuff is new, right? You know, I remember a long time ago watching, you know, Caligula, where, you know, Caesar had, you know, basically, you know, described the nymphs, described the sadistic, I mean, the S&Ms, and there's a difference of intensity between, you know, the S&Ms and the D and Bs, definitely, right? Because the S&Ms, you know, could be life altering, right? Could, you know, shed blood for real, right? Whereas, you know, the D and B was more or less about, you know, bondage and, you know, the terror of, you know, making somebody feel helpless. Whereas S&M was, you know, causing somebody actual pain. You understand? So, all of this stuff is really outdated. Very much outdated. Because there's no reason for it, right? Now, at one time, men were able to justify that men were needed in the world. I mean, they justified to themselves. Now, women intuitively knew, right? How is it that you said Mary had immaculate conception, right? Which it's now coming back to light that women can actually clone themselves, right? What's not said is that men are a mutation of women, right? Because you can't, we don't have a Y. We don't have a Y chromosome. We have two X's. Men have an X and a Y, right? It's a mutation. It's an opposite, okay? Now, women kind of intuitively know this, right? But this gets beaten out of them when you're growing up in the household. This is not discussed or talked about in the school, right? This was all recorded in the Library of Alexandria before it got burned down, and they toppled, the goddess temples and stuff like that. And yeah, then, they changed history to be his story. Okay? But like I said, all of that should be obsolete at this time. There's really no need for it, right? And if men, don't like it, they truly can be pushed out of their bodies and get a walk-in into their own body. It can happen. Also, when it comes to actual labor, our technology is advanced enough to where, we have automation and robots. So, right? And a lot of them was lazy ass desperados, right? That, thought it was cute to donate their sperm into a sperm bank just for a little change. So it's not as if, there's not these libraries of their sperm, frozen at these sperm banks. So yeah, I'm hoping that you all are enlightened rather than shocked and appalled. But I do expect you to be somewhat shocked, because a lot of people have a hard time accepting the harsh truth and would rather accept a beautiful lie. Okay? And the biggest fear that men have is they're afraid that if they don't relinquish this stronghold of corrupted power, that they feel as if people will be just as tyrannical as they are. Like what? Right. Well, right. Because the average person, they still realize, that every last one of us has came to this earth, male and female, under the agreement that we would get through this life with our virtues intact. Right? And women, we hear in spirit when, there's another spirit, wanting to be tested. They want to be tested, right? And the problem is a lot of men, they think they want to be tested, but where they go wrong in the thought processes is that they think that they can also give up on being tested, or that they had failed the test and that they can choose their way out. And a lot of them, they can't, right? Even if they have to sit in a vegetated coma at the hospital for months and months and months. And believe me, you're still a soul, even though your body is incapacitated. So for those of you that are ready and have an understanding that yes, there are the 4 elements, but there's also a 5th and a 6th element. And the 5th and the 6th element is basically what makes the 6-pointed star. The 6-pointed star, points up to the MC, or should we say the closest to the galactic center, and then the other one points towards the south, right? We'll just call it the North Pole and the South Pole. Yeah, let's just call it that. So this is why the Israelites, right, were seen to be a little bit more complete than those that just, dealt with the 4 elements, and those that dealt with, the 5-pointed star, right? When you reach a master's level in spirituality, you actually have the first level of mastery would be a 8-pointed star. Okay? Wrap that around your head. Keep up now. And of course, some of you are probably wondering, well, if there's an 8-pointed star, is there a 9 and a 10 and 11 and a 12? Could be. And just a mere fact that you asked about these multiple points of a star, you just might be the person that can conceive it and achieve it. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'm gonna cut it off here because I have some philosophizing to do, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.